Good afternoon, and we're going to go down a great trip down memory lane now, looking back to some of the best rugby memories this country has ever produced. And I'm joined by not one, not two, but three legends of the game. Niamh Briggs, Fiona Steed, Fiona Coghlan. Thanks a million for coming in and joining us.
No worries.
Yep.
First things first, before we even get down to anything, how was your Christmas?
It was good, quiet, worked a lot, trained a lot. It was quiet.
Yep, great family time, and then back to work then last week, so...
Mine was too good, yeah, overindulged, yeah.
Finally somebody tells the truth, yeah.
Yeah, so new year, new me.
Do you actually take that seriously though, or do you just... do you have a bit of crack over Christmas and then kind of readjust? Yeah,
no, definitely. Well, since I retired from rugby, definitely. Before that, we always had fitness testing either the week of Christmas or the week after, so you're always sensible. But since I retired, I enjoy Christmas now, and I'll get back into a routine once I'm back in work next week. So, but it's, you have to enjoy it.
You've been in routines with you.
Yeah, exactly. You have to enjoy it when you get a chance. You can train too hard at times. Yeah, when you get old.
When you get old. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, okay, when you get old. But yeah, it's important you enjoy it, and lots of people home for Christmas and things like that, so it's great.
First things first, one of the big talking points that just emerged this week is how England are giving out professional contracts. Rumour has it, I think from Scrum Queen, something like £28,000 a year. I suppose it's yet another example of how, I suppose, Ireland, for the want of a better phrase, minnows trying to keep up, Fiona.
Well, that's it. I mean, England have dabbled in the professional era, a few times over the past 10 years and that. But this is their first real, here we are, full-time contracts and some part-time ones as well. And 28,000 isn't a whole lot of money, but it allows them to be sports people, for the duration. And we'll be up against it, first game of the Six Nations, because they will have had from yesterday together, and we'll be pulling together for a few weekends here and there before then.
Would that be something that might have been playing on your mind if you were still playing and you're facing up against England and you're thinking, these women are here, they're being professional, they're getting £28,000, which isn't massive, especially if you're living in London, but it's a hell of a lot better than nothing.
Yeah, look, I think England, in fairness, we were always up against it, against England, because their numbers, because their structures in place were always better than ours, but it is something at the back of your mind. But at the end of the day, it comes down to on the day and the game. I don't think there's a huge amount that they're going to do in a month that's going to make them any better than they were in the November series. I don't know what way they're structuring it, but I don't think they're together all week. I think they're back at their clubs a lot. They're trying to put a lot of focus back on the clubs developing these international players as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But I think by the time the next World Cup comes, they're going to be definitely significantly ahead of us.
But isn't that really the worry, in that when you think about it, like, this is a fixture we were looking forward to with kind of trepidation, because we know how good England are, and already we can see here is just yet another example of them forging ahead and leaving other countries behind.
Yeah, but as Fiona said, I think it comes down to that day. I think for me, if I was playing that game, it would be something at the back of my mind that I would use as positive, and you would try and turn that into your, these are professional players, let's go put them up against it. They're the ones that are under pressure, and put it back on them. And so yeah, look, I think the most important thing for them is the longevity of it. So beforehand, the contracts were just until the World Cup, whereas this is now something that's going to be for the foreseeable future. And I think if you're a young girl in England, 10, 11, 12, you can dream of being a professional player, and that's a huge thing.
One thing, Niamh, as well, is that we've seen so many headlines about you over the years. We described as legend, captain, try scorer, point scorer, saviour a lot of the times. And the last few months, surprise omission. That's the ways when we see your name being printed. How are you coping? Because I know you were disappointed to not be named in the squad.
I think if you take out the last, say, before October, the last year, whatever, I probably definitely wouldn't have warranted selection. And when you get selected to play rugby for Ireland, it's not a given, and I've never thought it would be like that. And so yeah, look, I was struggling big time with injuries. I think that's been very well documented, and then illness over the summer. So the standard that I had tried to play at the Interpros just wasn't there. So Adam was very much in his own right to not include me for November. But I feel like I've got back fit and I'm playing well for my club, and it just didn't happen for Six Nations. And look, I was very disappointed, but I'll just keep my head down and keep playing well and see if I can put myself back in there.
That must be very hard though, when you're putting that work in, and when you feel like, okay, you can say I can justify it that I wasn't at the fitness level, but now you're you feel that you're thereabouts?
I'll tell you what, pre-2015 I was, really enjoying rugby, really, I was fit and I was healthy and it made such a difference. And then the last couple of years just hasn't been that way for me, and you start to not enjoy the game. You wonder, can you ever get back there? The last few months for me have just been really positive in terms of, for my own self, I'm fit and healthy and I'm back playing well, and that's all I wanted. And if it's not good enough for Ireland, well, that's okay for them, but for me, I'll just keep my head down and keep playing away.
It is very good actually to see you smile talking about rugby, because I've had conversations with you the last few years and it's been a struggle, so it's actually quite nice to see you smiling.
Yeah, it is. Look, I'm enjoying playing the club. I'm enjoying playing 80 minutes every week. More importantly, I'm enjoying training every day. I've not been able to put that together for a long time. I thought it would be enough to be involved in Six Nations. It's not, so I'll just keep ploughing away, keep my head down. I'll support the girls. I'll be their biggest supporter, and if I get back in, great, and if I don't know anything to the game and it doesn't know anything to me, so I've just wanted to get back into a good space, and I am.
Well, you're sitting alongside two women here who also owe the game nothing and the game owes you nothing, but I remember, Fiona, when you retired, you kind of said that you had reached your point, that you'd given all you could and anything beyond that was going to become too much of a toll on you.
Well, that's it. I mean, I suppose I'd done 10 years, and at the time it was a totally different landscape than what we had now, and I retired in 2004. And I suppose I was at my peak fitness. I was playing the best that I could, and I just couldn't give any more. And, I was moving on. We'd got engaged, and I suppose you move on to a new chapter. And I mean, there's been lots in recent weeks about, women coming back after babies and after this, that and the other. But for me, I like to compartmentalise. I like things to be in boxes and to move it on, So it's just, that was my choice at the time. I mean, I would have to say that Niamh is playing some of the best rugby in the AIL, at the moment, and for the way she's playing, that she deserves to be out there and that she should be out there.
I was just going to say, let's pretend Niamh's not in the room at the moment.
Well, whether she is or she's not, I'd say it to her face, or whether she's here or not. But and I think that's the point, that we're here to discuss rugby, and let's discuss it the way it should be discussed, which is that she should be in that squad, and that's not because she's my friend or I know her or anything else. We can all talk about when people haven't played well or whatever, but she is one of the standout players in the AIL at the moment.
Yeah, I see Fiona agreeing with you.
Yeah,
as well.
no, I think if you look at the current squad and if you look at the November internationals, and one key thing they were missing is a kicker, and I think that's going to be an Achilles tendon for them over the course of the competition, because they don't have someone either tactically kicking or place kicking at the moment, and a lot of work will have to be done with some of those girls, and in Niamh you have that. Saying what best position she would be at the moment, I don't know, playing really well for club at 10, and again they don't have an out and out 10. Nikki Coghlan got injured there and Ellen stepped in. She hasn't had an awful lot of time there under pressure, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops, but surely Niamh has to be in consideration. She's one of the top players in the country, and working back to fitness. And as I said earlier, last year I don't think she deserved to be selected in the Six Nations squad. She's just come back from injury. I think it was actually your first game back was an international game,
which at
10, a new position, which in itself, in my eyes, was ridiculous to put someone, first of all, coming back from injury under that pressure, but also in a new position under pressure. So look, obviously Adam has a plan and whatever that is, but I just think you need to be really honest with a player where they're coming from. If they're playing so well and at club level, to be honest, I didn't think you were that bad at the Interpros. Do you know what I mean?
She wasn't at her best.
She wasn't at her best, but I don't think, I think
she was a bit narky as well.
Narky.
Very.
It was almost sextonette, actually. The couple of bits that I saw with down in Cork. Yeah.
And did you feel when you came back at 10, Fiona was speaking there about putting pressure on somebody coming back so soon after injury, did you feel that pressure, or were you just delighted to be back?
I really did not enjoy last year's Six Nations, only in the sense that I loved playing 10. I still love playing 10. I just was so annoyed that I was in such bad condition. And I had followed everything to the letter of the law in terms of, hamstring off the bone and then torn Achilles. And it was like, okay, it's obviously a strength issue, so we'll bulk you up. But it just didn't suit me. And so that was it. And when your mind is going better than your body can, or quicker than your body is, you get very frustrated.
That happened me all the time.
I became very frustrated. So very quickly I was able to say, look, that Six Nations last year was just going to be a learning curve for me in terms of trying to learn that position as quickly as I could, and understand what Adam wanted to do, and then almost as a building block for this year, but obviously that didn't work out. So, look,
it might work out yet, though. I mean, that's
it's. I'd imagine it's fairly well clothed now. So
this might seem like a very naive question, but when you feel you're doing what you can, and when you're back to performing some of your best rugby, but you're not there yet, according to the coach, which is his prerogative, obviously. Do you ever get any guidance about perhaps what you should be working on, or what you need to be working on, or anything like that? Or do you know what might be missing?
I've had no conversation with Adam about why I'm not selected or that. So I just know that I'm not going to be involved. So that in itself is probably the most frustrating thing, I think, in terms of how you try and improve, or how you try and put yourself back into that mould. If he believes me to be surplus requirements because of my age, or that he wants to blood new players, that's fine in one sense, but it's very difficult to take when you know that you can try and offer something into that squad, and when you can't, it's just frustrating, I suppose. You just get more frustrated and angry. I'm not like as I said to you earlier on, my whole focus was to try and get back and be fit and healthy in me and enjoying it again, and that's what I'm doing, and that's where I'm going, and this time away is probably giving me good perspective on that too.
Would I be right in saying that you two nearly seem to be more angry and frustrated about this than Niamh is?
I just think from a development perspective, even to bring young new players into the game, I think it's always good to have experienced players there, learning from them. It's great to see such youth coming into the squads, and girls that have played from underage. We're not getting people taking up the game later, they've played from underage. I just think experience plays a lot as well, particularly in the intense environment of international rugby. I just think Niamh has something to offer. As I said, I don't know what best position. I think obviously fullback is your best position, but whether that's still the case, I don't know. I haven't seen you there in 2-3 years, so it's difficult to know. But even her boot alone,
yeah.
I think making the decision back pre-November or whatever, and then not revisiting the decision based on improved performance, that shows perhaps an unwillingness to go admit that, maybe we should have.
Unless, of course, perhaps the coach did revisit it and still decided, actually, my opinion stands.
I'm not. Let's not make this the.
Let's not make it about Niamh.
Why you've not been picked? No, that's not the case at all. As I said to you earlier on, that's Adam's decision, and I'll go out and be the girls' number one supporter, and I have no bitterness or anger to him or anybody else, and I just want, I want them to go. I want them to be successful over the Six Nations. I want them to be able to, it's part of a qualifying for the next World Cup series, which is going to be New Zealand. What a brilliant opportunity for some of those young girls. So yeah, look, while I'm disappointed, I think it's important that, we get behind the girls and Adam, and hopefully they'll be able to do a good job.
Yeah, and I would have always said that with regards to coaches and selection, because it's always been a contention, even with regards to matches, squads for matches and things like that. Coach has a plan, they have to stand by it. They pick a squad or a team based on what they see they need, and unfortunately in his eyes Niamh isn't there as much as we'd love to see her there.
That's
that's
why he gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah. Not about big bucks now, but that's why he's in the role he is, and it's a tough role as well, being a head coach. It's unforgiving. If you're successful, it's great, but if you're having bad results, it's a tough place to be as well.
Yeah, but it's important to have the conversation.
Absolutely.
It should be a conversation.
If people like yourselves who know the game inside out, and if you feel there's an omission for whatever reason, and there might be a very good reason for it, but it should absolutely be discussed in an open forum. One time though that things did align very, very well together, and we moved back the bus a little bit, 2013. We still see that. I mean, I can just see your face light up as you think about it. What are your memories of that now?
God, it actually started for me, it was a long process, but 2012 was a real defining year. The trip to France, and we lose by a point, and we were just we're good enough to be matching these teams, why aren't we? And there was then another conversation Christmas about some of the girls being taken for sevens, and us choosing to stay together as a squad. And then the first game against Wales, and we robbed that game. I think it was 12-10, but we scored a try in the last minute. Brilliant team try, but we didn't play well. And that
was Ali Miller-esque. So they chipped over the top. I will never forget this. We were running. All the girl had to do was put her hand down, and Miller just got a boot to it. Now, If we went to a TMO back then, I think we would have been under severe pressure. Miller absolutely says she got there, so we'll take her word for it. But yeah, we got out of jail.
She was busy that year actually, because she got against England as well. She was flat out.
She was super. A hat-trick, was it? She had a dream about that too, by the way, the night before.
Well, Ali Miller's dreams now could lead to anything.
Yeah, so look, we got out of jail that day.
Yeah, and I think just that, once we got over that game in Wales, I think things just ticked along nicely until that, obviously beating England 25-0, and then the game against Scotland, that first half we were shocking, and at half time we were like, girls, just keep the ball, let's not try to play open rugby. First minute into the game and Joy Neville decides this ridiculous offload and she's on the ground and I was like, Joy, and she's like, sorry. But things kind of improved then in the second half. We did quite good second half, and then just the French game was an unbelievable game of rugby. It was probably one of my best memories. It was a misty night in Ashburn, and the crowd were unbelievable, and to beat them, like, it wasn't the second time we beat them, and we knew we had the championship won then based on other results the next day. And then that horrible game in Parabiagio. It was just the day before, the sun was shining, we were sitting out in the street having coffee, and then the next day it was just horrific. And weather is a great leveller, like, we totally went down to Italy's level, like, we were a far better team than them, and we just didn't play that day, and thanks to Niamh's boot,
couldn't play that day though. Like, that game should probably never have been played. Like, we can't even be. It was like night and day the day before. Like, Goose and Gemma and them were walking around in shorts, t-shirts, sunglasses. We went to do the captain's run on this, like, okay, it didn't have much grass, but it was real solid ground. Got back to the hotel, and the man that owns this, like, hotel was like, wait for it tomorrow, weather is bad. We were like, yeah, whatever. Woke up next morning, snow. We were like, yeah. So, but it was brilliant memories, I think. Like,
definitely. Like, even though the game was shocking,
so bad, and the lack of showers afterwards.
Yeah,
so cold.
Lovely.
Claire Malloy, I remember, was studying for one of her finals in medicine, and so we were all like her. Like, she had these cue cards for the whole weekend leading up to the match, and we were all like her
patients.
Her patients. So would have to diagnose us, and that poor girl nearly got hypothermia afterwards, having played such an unbelievable game. And then two supporters got tattoos with #Milano on their cheeks. And
facial cheeks or posterior cheeks?
Posterior cheeks.
That's a good way to put it. Posterior cheeks.
Yeah, so they were.
My medical lingo is coming up now.
Yeah, so and that all added to the occasion. I think it was just it was great crack. The celebrations afterwards, the pub.
Just the fans, like Kiwi, one of our ex-internationals, Emery McAllister, flew from New Zealand over for it and everything, and just the impact that it made on people who'd played before. But likewise, the nation really took hold of the team that year. And just really got behind us, and it was just.
I just think we were so lucky and fortunate. If the group of players that were there were like.
I'm not sure luck comes into it now.
There was hard. Across the way, like all those the little games, like the Wales game, there was little bits of luck, whatever. But it was a special group of players, led very well. Like, not because she's sitting here, but Fee was like the glue. Like Fee, Lynn, Grace Davitt, they just held everybody together. And the standards that they set for people, that 2012, 2013, you just knew what it took to be there. And I think that whatever out there, how good they are players, it was their ability to hold everybody together as players on the pitch and off it. I think we probably like that.
Helped with a good management, though. Do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Goose had gone from the game in 2006. He came back then in 2010, but he built a management squad around him as well, that he knew his own weaknesses, and he brought in, the likes of Greg McWilliams, the likes of Justin, and then Peter Bracken and Gemma Crowley and stuff. There was a really strong management behind us to back us up, Andy Weir and people like that. So that really helps as players, I suppose, and as captain, to have that support off the pitch as well, and putting us kind of in the best place that we could to go out and perform.
To the general bystander, I was just going to say that people might think this might be a bit of an overnight success, but obviously you knew, especially the years of work that went into that, because you trained under Philip Doyle as well and stuff, so you've seen it all.
Yeah, no, I suppose I started in 94, not wanting to age myself too much, but seen it all beforehand. But I suppose 2013, Bill was born in 2012, and so I was just coming out of the haze of that, and getting back into watching and supporting rugby and Irish Rugby TV as it was broadcast, the two home games. So I was doing the co-coms for that or whatever, and it was just being up in Ashbourne, and it was just, you sort of got the sense that actually there's something a little bit special here, and I mean, to beat England, like, I know, like, and you'd beaten France before, and to beat France, but to beat England in Ashbourne, it was like we all went and booked our flight straight away for Italy. You know, that it just, I suppose, having been through it and having been through the trouncings and the hammerings in Twickenham and Worcester and everywhere else that you could have been, to see that was hugely emotional, you know. And then I think for then the ordinary public, it was a case of, all right, do you know, a bit like the hockey success in the summer. It was like,
I very much likened the hockey success to our kind of story too.
That it just, but it was this growing belief, you know, within the squad, and you could see it, and like, you know, Philip or Goose, he fierce for the detail, and for, you know, he had his own, I suppose, personality as well, and the way he drove things, and I think he deserved all that he had put in over the years in the different, because he was back with us in '98 as well, he knew he had evolved.
And he was learning as he went along
exactly,
as well.
And he brought something back different, and like you say, knew that he wasn't the best at absolutely everything, and brought the people in. But it was huge. And then, you know, I don't know, going on to then 2014. Do you know the way it was like? It was like yay! It was. We're here, like.
Yeah, but it's somewhat annoying when people say it was an overnight success, because
that is the perception. But we see the likes of Fiona who've been there
so many others
for
that
years.
had slogging away when people didn't even know women's rugby existed. Never mind, you know, that they were getting beaten. They didn't even know. Like when I came into the game, I didn't even know women played rugby. You know, at the start when I went to college, and you know, to see people paying for everything themselves, you know, driving it themselves, having a passion and wanting to see it grow, and. You know, 2013, it's brilliant. I thought I'd retire without a trophy. You know, I didn't. I knew we were progressing. I knew we were getting better, but we were third place finishers all the time. It was getting over that mark. We beat France then. I was like, will we beat England? Will we beat England? And then to do it, I suppose, that year and the style that we did it in was unbelievable. But it is down to the, you know, people who paved the way 100%. Before that. And
you have to do it on the day.
We were very aware that always. We were very aware that we were carrying on the next what they had done before us was something that had to be done while you were getting the beatings and stuff. It had to happen for us to be able to be successful.
For you to grow, you needed
and I think that was very evident even afterwards that night in Italy. People were very conscious of that.
But even, remember, Philip brought in like loads of past players to present jerseys, so he brought in anyone he could get that had played for Ireland to present jerseys at one of the games, and you know, just meeting people that some of the girls would have never even heard of before. It was just brilliant to say, okay, we've something in common. You know, we're all going towards the same thing, and just at different times.
What was really nice, I suppose, to come full circle on it was last year when we got our caps. You know, because those of us that played pre-2006 or were capped pre-2006, some straddled the 06 piece when the IRFU sort of brought them under the umbrella. So we were presented with our caps, but it was with, you know, so the women's team was there as well.
It's brilliant, yeah.
And it was just even that acknowledgement, you know, from, you know, Kieran as captain and the lads to come up and to meet all of them. I mean, I had known some of them anyway, but the ones that were even, you know, just before me or around who hadn't necessarily been involved in it, but for them all to come back, people flew back from Australia, New Zealand, it was fantastic, and that almost completed the circle, you know, as to right, but then it wasn't particularly the best year last year for the women's team, you know, and that's the other side of it. We can't reflect too much or bask in, you know, 2013, 14, 15.
Because that was
a big moment for us, though.
It needs to be marked.
Even for the current players to be there, we said it afterwards.
Oh, you mean the caps?
Yeah. That was really special. It was like as if we were now all part of it and all on that same journey together.
Yeah, no,
and then
huge.
The following year then to go on to beat New Zealand, you know, and for it to be seen on TG Cahir as well. I remember actually watching it in a hotel room in Kerry. The sun was shining and there was people in other rooms around me and we could all hear the screaming in the rooms. We were all watching it and things like that happened was unreal. Yeah. We had 2015, another great year. It wasn't a Grand Slam, but it was still a championship, not too bad. And then what happened?
I still 2016, though, obviously I was injured, but they got down to a last Grand Slam decider, so that was still a successful year.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And then obviously...
so let's narrow it down. What happened in 2017?
To be honest with you, 2016, even getting to a Grand Slam decider, I don't think Ireland were playing particularly well, and likewise 2017. And I know people were talking about France. What year was it? 2017 they beat France in Donnybrook. It was a real, it was just about real grudge match. It was real. Players had been taken.
Yeah, girls going to
be.
That was the same year. Yeah. So that's Grand Slam
before the World Cup.
Yeah, so that was an unbelievable performance. But Ireland weren't playing particularly well that year. France had just changed their coach, and the difference that coach made then between the French coach, between Six Nations and World Cup was unbelievable. And he's going on now again, you know, and I just didn't see the progression in Ireland's game. Yes, loads of new faces in, but there wasn't a huge amount of retirements. There was a lot of experience still in that World Cup squad in 2017, and I just didn't see the progression in the way that Ireland were playing. I saw players go into themselves, as opposed to when I played with them, they expressed themselves, they were keen to express themselves, and you know, I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was the environment, whether it was the coach, whether it was, I don't know where it went wrong, like, but when you see players that you know they're capable and what they're given, there has to be something there, like, and I just don't know what it was.
Yeah, and we talked when we covered it, you know, for TV and stuff, and we never, I suppose, got to the bottom of it as outsiders again, and, you know, some internal review was done, but we never got any, you know, in terms of the high performance piece, didn't get access, and it's almost like, okay, well, that's done, and then you move on. But it's like Fee saying, it was just, they limped along, you know, but we had such expectations going into our home World Cup, you know, and possibly unjustified, but it should have been all aligned. No, exactly.
Yeah, because it's not just they beat New Zealand and everything else went to pot. It didn't. There was a good trajectory going, so it was justified of expectation.
But I suppose we had worked through the Six Nations, and it was like, oh, jeepers, yeah, okay, so they got over it, you know. But just about, and the brand of rugby and the style just wasn't. It wasn't good, and the basic skill set wasn't good. So whatever had happened, you know, in that, I suppose, 12-month period, say, it was just it just didn't work, you know. And the players were, I mean, you know, largely there. And then the World Cup, like when you limp past, you know, Japan and stuff, it's like, you know, the writing was on the wall a little bit. And then last year was obviously rebuilding, and, you know, was a new coach, 6-month contract initially, you know, so there was all this sort of stuff to it. But there was, you know, I would have been happy if they'd won the 3 home games in terms of development and in terms of putting a marker down. But they didn't do that. So you sort of look at, okay, that would have been a good return. Whereas I'm sort of on the, was it a good year or was it an okay year? You know,
still at third place. They're still at that third place finish, but just the manner in which they played, it wasn't, you know, where we'd expect them to be. But it's a rebuilding year, lots of new faces in. But then we're going to have more new faces in this year. So I just wonder what style they're going to play this year as well.
And when do you stop rebuilding? You know, so last year, this year, but it's like you were saying, then we need to now, between this Six Nations and next, qualify for the next World Cup. Like, you want to be on that plane to New Zealand. We want to be on that plane to New Zealand.
100%.
Especially when you had the home World Cup advantage the last time round.
Yeah.
It didn't work out the way the stars were aligning for Ireland.
No. But maybe then, and is that back to the old thing of, you know, being better as the underdog, being better when, you know, and we should be so far gone from that, like, you know.
And you call yourselves an underdog when you had a Grand Slam, when you beat New Zealand, when you won
but that's what I'm saying. So are we better not having that pressure of being the Grand Slams, being, you know, Six Nations and being, or is it nothing? Is that a nothing now? Are you gone so
back to team preparation and teaching them and guiding them and to deal with that kind of pressure?
I tell you, we had one day in UCD in June where we spoken about, and it's very difficult for me because I was so far on the outside, but not really on the outside, if that makes any sense. So you're obviously there and you're training away, and then you're injured and you're not in there. So I can only speak from my personal experience, and that, you know, it's very hard then to sit on the stage and watch things unfold the way it did, because as Fee said, you know the type of players that are there, you know how good they can be, and then you start to question why aren't they playing that. And then so yeah, look, it was very difficult, 100%, and I think that we need to, as a squad or as a group of players that are there now, need to probably learn from that type of experiences and then start building then for the Six Nations.
I think we have to be very realistic about where women's rugby was in 2013, 14, 15.
Where it is now, 100%.
Yeah. Our squad, the success was from the squad. It wasn't from the structures outside the squad, because they were very limited. So it was the people involved in those squads and what they brought together. And once those things start to kind of go away, you know, I think things kind of fell apart, whether it's players retiring, management changes, those changes, and they just didn't step up to where we expected them kind of to go.
Each team has peaks and troughs and rebuilding phases, but we need to look at structures now need to be put in place outside it to impact what's inside it, because we haven't got that experience that, you know, a lot of you at the time were playing for 10 years, 8 years, you know, had built and had gone that journey together. But we need to make sure that...
Some of the younger girls that are coming in there now, like, they just... I haven't watched them and played, but some of them already into pros and then playing club against a lot of them. Like, some of them, they hold no fear, which is great, because they are playing for so long and they are starting at 10, 11, 12 years of age. So it's really exciting. Like, say, like Niamh Briggs playing with Bows at the moment, playing with Munster. She just blows me out of the water, because it's almost like she's just so, just give me the ball. Yeah, it's fine. Like, don't you know?
But that works fine, right? That works fine in AIL and into pros, right? But you can't then immediately translate that to playing against England on the opening game of the Six Nations.
There's also that thing is, if they're going into the game with no fear and they're looking to try and express themselves and play and come up to the level as quickly as possible.
But
absolutely, that's fine.
Do we have to critique their... You know, as in, if we're going to critique their performance, for example, I could be wrong and you correct me, but I think Claire Molloy, was she the only Irish player in Scrum Queen's kind of World Team of the Year?
Yeah.
Does that not tell its own story that perhaps the standard...
No, it was a poor year. It was a really poor year for us last year.
Yeah.
She would be the only one that...
At the same time, does it not maybe perhaps tell that the other teams, the Englands and New Zealands, are forging ahead?
England didn't have that money on it.
Yeah,
no, France.
France are the team.
France were unbelievable. France are coming like a train.
France are training.
The November international, their game against New Zealand.
Blew them away.
Unbelievable.
They were brilliant.
Yeah, it was scary to watch actually.
So I do think that, like, stuff like that, it's like, I think you can look at that and look way into it than what you need to, in terms of, yes, 100% performances were not good enough last year, but were the performances good enough in November? That's what, like...
Were they?
I think there was an improvement in the England game from the USA game. I thought the US game was poor. I think there was a definite improvement in
that's
in
just
intensity.
More time that they add together now. Yeah. So they have these weekends now in January. So hopefully, look, a home game first up against England. If you can't get up for that, like... And look, Claire Molloy is world class. Like,
she's getting any team.
In any team across. She is world class. I would have put Junior in there too, Ciara Griffin. You know, she's working like you don't often see the
hard work.
Molloy will dance around people, like, as well as be a menace on the ground. They're just different players, and you can often oversee what Ciara Griffin does and what she adds to the game. But for me, she takes games by the scruff of the neck. So
and we have loads of potential, and we have people that are coming through the ranks and that are doing it. But again, you look at Babine Parsons, and so at 17 or whatever, but she should be there should be an under-20s team for her to play on. Absolutely, and she should be playing against others of a similar, and then, and it's all very well saying that, okay, with the whole no fear and whatever, that is one fantastic element of it, but technically and skill set wise, you come up against people who no more play against harder every week, like the Premiership, the standard of rugby in England week in, week out, and France is superior. Yeah. So they can hold no fear playing in the AIL and playing in the Interpros and be fantastic. And I hope to God they bring it through, in 4 weeks' time or however many weeks that we have left. But nothing prepares you for the level and intensity of competition that the other France and England in particular, definitely, our players are coming against week in, week out.
I would be worried allowing an experienced 17-year-old, even if she is the strongest, fastest player that you might have seen in a long time, in against a France, for argument's sake. Just because I'm thinking, like you said, she hasn't come up with that intensity, she hasn't come across that ferocity in her club game week in, week out that others would. Now, maybe that's just me being too protective of a younger player. I'd feel that in all sports. That's my point.
Because she's underage, so that's my point, we don't even know, like...
That would be my share.
For me, watching her in the under-18s Interpros this year, by far the standout player. She was outstanding. But then you're up against under-18s. Yes. And I understand that, but listen...
Her first touch of the ball, she looks exciting. She physically looks ready. She's in an environment where they have all the medical S&C support that she needs in order to match up that level. And I suppose...
The girls say at training, like, she's flying it. She doesn't have it, like, in terms... And I get that. I don't know that a match is different. But when you're 16 or 17 coming into an international setup, when you're 25 25 coming into an international setup for the first time, you can really go into yourself and be very quiet. And there wasn't like, she was happy enough to be able to get stuck in there to
It's great.
There's nothing like youth to not have fear.
And we've had,
I think it's a bigger picture. We had a 17-year-old back in the World Cup, Laura Nichols, back in 94, 98, do you know? So I presume she was a few days older than, I think maybe was she doing her leaving cert or her A-levels or whatever it was in the north at the time, and did we have to get dispensation for her to play or not? But, you know, so it happens. But it's we need to look as well at bigger picture stuff as to how we're going to improve and develop.
Yeah, the club game 100% needs to have better structures, better games.
And just to begin to wrap things up, discussion. I mean, it's so hard to discuss everything that's been achieved and done and hasn't been done the last few years, but what would be a good result for this upcoming campaign?
Winning the 3 away games.
Is that possible?
I think performances too, so, and the type of brand. So 100% 3 away games, absolutely 100% can be possible. A win or a good performance against England or France, while look, we're writing this off 2012, 2013, and we managed to come together and pull a result. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing. I'm just saying that a good performance against England could set us up for a good championship, and I think that's going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, I think it has to be performance first day out. You know, that England, I presume, will come with their full team, you know, and that they'll play their top people.
And interesting, England have now taken players back from the sevens, like Emily Scarrett, Mo Hunt, Jess Breach. So they've chosen 15s now over sevens, because there's full-time contracts. So, you know, that's going to be a different England team with the likes of Scarrett and Mo Hunt there as well.
Absolutely. But like, I'm always hopeful and always optimistic, you know, and my wish is that you know, they have a huge performance and see what happens after that, and then I suppose we have to be realists after that and analyse it and see where we're at.
Yeah, like they haven't decided on qualification for the World Cup, whether the Six Nations is actually going to stand or not, so they really need to be looking to win those 3 games. Just that has to be the back of your head, that qualification is there.
Totally possible and realistic, you know, and that should be the absolute standard. We weren't very far away from 3 games last year, albeit them at home, you know, and the performance was growing. You know, the Wales game, lovely. It was, so it needs to be performance, and maybe to have a see of a game plan and to see what are we setting up as and what are we looking at doing, and where are the new people. And
I think it's exciting. Yeah. I think it's exciting to see the squad that's named some young people. Like there's 6 or 7 sevens girls in that as well, so they're not going to be available for the first 2 games, so it'll be interesting then to see what way that dynamic comes back in. Do they come back in after that? Because if they don't, you're kind of short then in terms of firepower. But yeah, look, I think having November series brilliant from the RFU in terms that they've committed to that for the future, which is great. So I definitely do think the trajectory is on the way up after a bit of a dip.
I think it's probably fair to say a lot done, a lot of more to do, and some great high points. Thanks especially to people like the 3 of you who've created these high points for us over the years to watch and be able to reflect on. It's great to be able to sit back and think about some of the glory days of Irish rugby, or thanks to people sitting here. So thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Niamh Briggs, Fiona Steed, Fiona Coghlan, Gurmeen Mahagi.
Cheers, thanks.